The current ascension energies are bringing in a very prominent theme right now, and we are being impacted in ways that we have never experienced before. Now, we may have had these experiences on a very subtle level or even a strong level, and this is actually at the highest intensity level that you can imagine. Now, the infusing of light on our planet is starting to intensify and amplify and speed up. We have so many elements happening, the cosmic shifts and energies that are creating these changes in the electromagnetic field, both on the planet and in our bodies, is upgrading us continuously, whether we're aware of it or not. And when we can start to see things from a bird's eye view, or from a higher vantage point, we start to tap into what is actually happening and how we can see this theme from the mystery school teachings as within, so without. So we look to the stars to give us indications of the themes that we are working with. And the different planetary energies carry specific themes within them when we are working with the zodiac and the planets together. Now, over the last few days, I have been really tapped into the moon, which changes every 2.5 days. And we are currently in the moon in Cancer. Cancer is a very emotional sign, and it is the natural home for the moon. And so these emotions may run high right now. You might start to feel more. And it's really interesting because we came from Gemini. I was watching this. I was watching what was going on within me. And my intuition pulled me to tune into the moon. And Gemini is thought processes, ideas, mental energy. And over the 2.5 days that the moon was in Gemini, my energy was in my head. It was overactive. I'm not really a big fan of the word hyper because it's got a very strong energy to it. So hyperactive would be what I could say. Overactive would be the more higher frequency vibrational wording that I would choose for that. Although when you think about those words, overactive, hyperactive is like what you start to feel in the body when the mind is overactive. And that was the direct relationship between the body and the mind that was occurring. And what I can say is these energies coming in are so strong right now. They are so intense. And the moment that the moon shifted from Gemini to Cancer, the emotions started coming forward. And things that were really stuck started to upheaval within the system, right? And so now, what do we do when this happens? We feel. We feel into the feeling. We don't get stuck in the feeling, but we can go deep into the feeling. Earlier this morning, I had a lot of emotion moving through me. I cried, and then I cried more. I did a meditation to release grief from my heart, and I cried during the meditation. I had a heart-to-heart conversation with a friend, and I cried more. And I was at that point where I started feeling, are these tears ever going to end? And the thing is, I didn't repress them. I let them flow. And because I allowed myself to be totally present with where I was and allowed it to move through me, it shifted. And what I can say is that I understand that we are not always in a place or a situation where if we are feeling emotions, that there is an actual space where we can express them. So I honor that. And in those moments when I can't feel fully whatever it is coming up, I create space for it. Now, this time is so important for us to truly tap in to our inner wisdom, to move from the space of the head and into the heart. A major theme that has been coming up with this overactivity in the mind is starting to speak into the old energy of who we were, the old paradigm, the limiting beliefs. What I can say in my experience and through a little research, and of course the research for me usually comes from intuitive guidance that I am drawn to, is that the energy of Chiron, which is the wounded healer, which creates a very big expansion when we move towards Chiron, when we start to work with the energy of Chiron, this asteroid planet that helps us to move through a core wound that we have experienced, that we currently are moving through. This is heightened at this time. So depending where Chiron is in your chart, you may notice whatever the theme is around that sign you are experiencing. The ego keeps us safe. It protects us. It wants us to stay where it's comfortable, where it's familiar. The ego is so helpful for us if we are in danger, if we require protection. When we were in ancient times, as cavemen, cavewomen, we required our ego to keep us safe. When we lived in the wild, we required the ego to keep us safe. In the Renaissance time, when there were battles, we required the ego to keep us safe. Our ancestors who were in the war required their ego to keep them safe. We are in a time in the world, on the planet, where we are able to let go. Those stories that run through our history, through our DNA, through our ancestral lineage, through our past lifetimes, are not the truth in this now moment. Yet the grip and the hold that we may feel from our ego is so strong sometimes that it is difficult to let go. And this is okay. It is in the awareness and the recognizing of this pattern that we can then choose to let go. We can choose to move and lean in to the truth. We are fully supported. We have spirit guides, ancestors. If we are fortunate, we have soul family on the planet at this time that are connected with us. Most importantly, we are supported when we are in the knowingness of our true nature. When we remember that we are divinely linked to the Creator, that we are part of the microcosm and the macrocosm a drop in the ocean and the entire ocean. When we reconnect to this truth, we open ourselves to this infinite present moment. When we open ourselves to this truth, we allow all timelines, all dimensions, all soul fragments of ourself to merge into one now moment, one now experience. And when we can cultivate this inner power to call our energy back, to call our power back, and from this space of inner fire and flame, we merge and we connect in to our higher self, to our higher power, to that link between the finite and the infinite, the human self and the divine that are not separate, that are one. We are here to realize, self-realize, self-actualize. Our mission here on earth is one of our soul's evolution and of a collective ascension. Together, we are ascending. This means that we are growing, we are learning. And in this ascension process, the growth comes from the release of duality and connecting into unity, bringing all soul fragments, all timelines, all dimensions unified in the here and now. Our true energetic mastery comes from these initiations, these soul lessons, these mystery school teachings. We have waited lifetimes to be on this planet at this very moment in time. We all have innate gifts and abilities. We all have the capacity to be deeply intuitive and telepathic. And you may notice this, that things are happening so quickly right now with telepathy. You think something and it happens at the exact same moment you're thinking it. It is so profound. And what a blessing if we can take a moment to feel the gratitude to be able to have this experience here on earth at this time, where we are recognizing, realizing, and reclaiming our divine birthright. We are infinite. We are abundant. It is only the mind that separates us from the truth of that inner knowing. So to raise our consciousness to this truth, we are required to go deep into the shadow. We are required to release the density from our physical body. And if that means to feel our feelings so deeply that they pour out of us, so be it. Sometimes sitting in meditation and retraining the mind is not the requirement. Sometimes we are meant to go deep into the feeling, into the release. And it's important that we create sacred spaces for release. When I lived in India, it was the first time I took part in a meditation where we went through an array of human emotions. And this was at the Osho Meditation Resort in Pune. And I tell you, the first part of the session was to go into anger, into rage. And it was a group meditation where we met each other. So two people would meet, squat down, put their hands into fists, look into the other person's eyes, and start yelling from our core, from our navel, and just yelling, letting everything out, everything that we felt, and owning it with I feel statements, or I whatever follows that statements. So it was not you are this, you are that, because sometimes we knew each other when we met in meditation, and there were moments where I met people in meditation that triggered me. And so by going into this meditation and yelling and letting it all out, and then using the I statement, it really let me go deep and see, why am I being triggered by this person in front of me? What are they revealing within me? And the Course in Miracles teaches, my sisters and my brothers are my salvation. It is through all of existence that I see who I am and who I am not. I can say that when I went into this meditation room and I saw what this first session was about, it scared me so much. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to yell. I was like the peace and love child. Like, I did not want any of that at all. And it wasn't even about want. I thought I had it not in me to do that. I was like, I'm not angry. And my default was to cry. So when we can go beyond the layers of the tears, there is usually anger that rests underneath that grief. And a lot of women default to the tears. They get so angry that they cry. Could you imagine what would happen if we tapped into that fire, that flame, that heat, that anger in a sacred way, in a healthy way, to express truly what we have repressed? I can tell you that from doing this meditation many times over, and it didn't end with anger, it went into hugging and dancing and shaking and crying and laughing. So we did an array of human emotions, all within a 2.5 hour span of time. And it was the most cleansing experience. I remember the very first time I did it, and at the time I was still in active addiction. And when I was there, I was not using, because that was the nature of my life, where I would go into active addiction and then I would be like, oh no, I need to go clean up my life. I'm going to go on a spiritual retreat. So that was the nature of my teeter-tottering and my pendulum swinging back then. So at this time, I was sober and clean. And I remember coming out of the meditation and being like, whoa, I feel like I just took ecstasy. So it was like every fiber of my being was vibrating with energy and life. And it really truly is, when we move the energy, that density out of our system, that there is this free flow of energy. We tap into resources we didn't even know we had because we were sitting on them. And that is actually the kundalini at the base of the spine. We sit on the kundalini that resides there. So the more we can use our intention to move that energy, to wake that energy up, to release the stagnation of the density and the repressed emotions, and to move from the head into the body, to move the energy and in that space of release, we start to enter the sacred portal of our hearts. And this is where every answer is. Everything is within. When this knowingness comes online, everything flows in effortlessly in our life. And when our heart space opens to this magnitude of being available to divine love in each and every moment, we see beauty in everything and everyone. We recognize the God self within, the God self without. We honor the goddess, the cycles, the rhythms of the earth and the stars. We tap into the subtlety of all realms, all timelines, all dimensions. It is from our heart space that we are truly creative beings. And it is time to move from that state of destruction into creativity, to be our full potential, to rise into a new frequency. And as we do this one by one, we are lighting the way. I had this visual in a meditation this morning where I saw all the human beings on the planet. And I saw a candle light up in my heart through my meditation. And then the people around me, one by one, the light of their candle in their heart was lighting up. And then the whole world was lit up. And this was the first part of my meditation that made me cry. And from that space, I felt so much gratitude. The potential and the possibility of what we can create here on earth is limitless. It is infinite. And it truly is about returning to our heart space. So thank you so much for joining me on this Ascension Energy Update today. If you are feeling called to go deeper into opening your heart, connecting in sacred sisterhood, and doing grid work for yourself and the planet, we are going to the Sacred Isle of Avalon, Glastonbury. We're going to the different sacred sites in England and doing energy work for the planet, healing and empowerment work for ourselves, and connecting in on a heart-soul level with each other. Our journey and this sacred pilgrimage will be in June. If you are interested, please reach out to me or comment below with the word retreat, and I will connect with you. And I will also add a link in the description where you can book a clarity call if you have any questions or would like more information about this sacred journey.